In this video I'm going to show you how to make this crochet shell stitch pattern. This is actually a pattern I put together for one of my lovely students called Susan, who had a blanket for one of her grandchildren, I believe, and we were trying to find the stitch pattern that matched the blanket because she wanted to make another one. Unfortunately, we couldn't actually find anything. I looked through all my books and online, I couldn't find anything that really matched, so I kind of tried to duplicate it. It's not exactly the same, but this is what I've come up with. So I've used in this swatch and in the video, I've used double knit cotton with a 4mm hook, and that is giving us roughly 1, 2, 3, every 3 shells is about 12 centimeters, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. We're getting about 4.5 of the shell repeats in terms of rows. So this is a 4 stitch pattern repeat, so you need to crochet 4 rows in order to get the repeating pattern. And then I've also made up this swatch in this absolutely lovely tweed treat yarn from Ginger Twist Studios in Edinburgh. Highly recommend this yarn. This is Bourbon and Water. It's really nice. I think this would work up absolutely beautifully as a hat or even a sweater. So the other thing I want to tell you about before I start on the actual video tutorial is that there are written instructions for this shell pattern, which includes photo tutorials, a chart, and also how many chains you need to make if you want to make something wider, like a blanket or something like that. So it's just a quick, easy, quick access, quick check chart, save you having to calculate anything. So that's available. This PDF, also viewable online, is available from my new and free stitch pattern directory on my website. So I'll put a link in the caption under the video. Please sign up, it's free. Over time I'll be adding lots more stitches in there, so please do sign up, and I'll probably be putting some exclusive ones on there as well. So I'm just going to be using a cotton double knit and a 4mm hook, just because I want a reasonable drape. I don't want it too stiff. I'm going to start with a slip knot loop and going to chain 35. Next up, I'm going to put 1 double, which is a UK treble, into the 4th chain from the hook, but I'm going to be working into the back ridges of the chain. So the front of the chain is the side where you've got the V shapes, and then the back of the chain is when you roll it over and you see these bumps at the back. So I'm going into the 1, 2, 3, 4th back ridge, and I'm putting 1 double, which is a UK treble. So I've done a yarn over, I'm pulling up a loop, I've got 3, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over, draw off 2. So don't worry too much if it's pulling that loop open a bit. Once you've got more stitches on that chain and the weight is being evenly distributed across the back ridges of all the chains, it stops doing that, so don't worry too much about that. You're going to put another double crochet or UK treble into the back ridge of the next chain. So at this point, in essence, you've actually got 3 stitches because we're counting this little bit of chain that we skipped as our first stitch, and then we've got 2 doubles there. Next up, we're going to skip one of the chains and you're going to make an open V stitch. So I'll show you how to do that. We're going to skip this one chain, we're going into the next back ridge, so yarn over into that next one, pull up a loop, you've got 3, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over, draw off 2. You're going to chain 2, Then you're going to go back into that exact same chain and you're going to put another double or UK treble. So there you can see we've got an open V stitch, so it's 2 doubles separated by a chain 2 all going into the same stitch. Now you're going to skip 1 chain and you're going to put 1 double crochet into each of the next 5 chains. So working into the back ridges of doing 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5. And again you're going to, oops, don't throw your crochet around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so make sure you've got 5. Now you're going to skip a chain and you're going to do another open V stitch into the next chain. So that's a double, chain 2, double. I haven't really got free flow of yarn. And that's basically our sequence now, is open V stitch, skip a chain, 5 double. So I've done skip a chain, open V stitch, skip a chain, 5 doubles. I've worked this yarn quite a bit, so it's a bit splitty because I keep unraveling it for the sake of the tutorial. Oh, no chain, I don't know what I'm doing there. And again, skipping a chain and doing an open V stitch. Like that. Skip another chain and then 5 double. So this is pretty straightforward row. So the first, so just make sure you're not twisting the chain, because what we want on the underside is that other side of the chain that looks like the top of the stitch, top of a normal stitch, we want that running along the bottom. So you just got to be careful. If you're not sure if you've twisted the chain, just have a look and make sure there's still a continuous flow of that. What have I done? 2, 3. I didn't actually make crochet a very neat chain because I used some yarn that I frogged from something else, so it was a bit crinkly. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5 of those, and then I'm now making the last shell. So I'm open V stitch rather, skip a chain, open V, skip a chain. You should have 3 chains left because we start with 3 and we end with 3, because we're kind of chopping the pattern through the stitch pattern, repeat through the middle really. Okay, so let's have a quick looky. So at the end of this one you should have 3 to start with. First one, remember, we already mentioned it, we've nicked part of the starting chain. Open V, 5, open V, 5, open V, 5, and then open V, 3. Let's do row 2. So we're going to start off with the chain 1. This is not counting as a stitch and we won't ever work into it either. Turn the work round to the wrong side. Actually, this is the right side, but wrong side of the previous row. With this stitch pattern, it's actually the even numbers of the stitch repeat that are the right side of the fabric, because this does have a right and a wrong side. So in the very first stitch we're going to put a single crochet, which is a UK double, but remember we are now working into the back of the stitch, so you need to tilt it forward a bit so that you can see front loop, back loop, and you're going to put a single crochet in there. Next up you're going to yarn over and you're going to skip these next 2 stitches, and you're going to do a front post double crochet, which in British terminology is front post treble crochet around the next stitch. So that's actually this first stitch of this open V stitch. So to do front post crochet around the front post, you make sure you've done your yarn over first. You're going to go around the back of the post, so notice how I go between those two stitches and I pop up in the middle of the V, so I've got the hook underneath that first stitch of that open V, and then I'm going to do a double crochet or a treble as normal. So pull up a loop, you've got 3, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over, draw off 2. So that is a front post double crochet, or in British terminology that's a front post treble. Into this hole, the chain 2 space, I'm now just going to put 5 doubles, 5 UK trebles. So yarn over, that's 1, that's 2, 3, 4, that's 5. Okay, next up you're going to put a front post double crochet round the next stitch of your open V. So I'm going through the middle of the hole there and popping up between those 2 stitches. Pull up a loop, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over, draw off 2. So it should be looking like that. So you're making a shell of which the first stitch is a front post double, and it always goes around the first stitch of the open V. Then you do 5 double crochets in the middle, which is the middle of your shell, and then you do front post double crochet around the second stitch of your open V. Next up, you're going to skip 1, 2 of the doubles, and you're going to single crochet, which is a UK double, into the third. So what that is basically, it's, remember you had a set of 5 there, you've basically put a single crochet in the middle. What that does is it anchors down your shell stitch. So now we're just going to repeat the stitch sequence that we did here. Skip 1, 2, front post double crochet around the first leg of the V stitch, 5 double crochets into the space, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Front post double crochet round the next stitch of that V stitch, skip 2 stitches and single in the middle of that section of 5 doubles. So it should be looking like this. So I'm just going to continue that sequence. I'm just going to go a little bit faster now. Skip 2 stitches, front post double around the next stitch, 5 double into the chain 2 space, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4, that's 5, front post double round the next stitch of the V, and then I'm going to skip 2 stitches and single crochet into third stitch, which is in the middle of those 5, and again another shell, front post double, 5 doubles into the chain 2 space, 3, 4, 5, no, I've only done 4. Front post double crochet around the next stitch, and then you're going to skip 2 stitches and put a single crochet in the last stitch. So actually the last stitch is the chain 3 where we nicked a bit of the chain. So just count 1, 2, and whatever's the third one, make sure you'll probably have to roll the work forward so that you can find the front and back loop of that chain. Avoid just going into the hole because it will make a big hole. Treat the chain like a normal stitch, front loop, back loop. If that's a bit tight, that can be tricky. So the back ridge of the chain should be on the back of the hook, and put a single into there. So this is what it's looking like at the end of row 2, even end of row 2. So this is what it's looking like at the end of row 2. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 full shells, and those first 2 rows are your kind of setup row really. So from now on, from rows 3 through to 6, rows 3 to 6 are your stitch pattern repeat. So once you've done these 2 rows, rows 3 to 6 are what you just keep repeating as you're making your fabric. So let's do row 3. We're going to do a chain 2, and this chain 2 is not counting as a stitch, and nor are we ever going to work into it. I'm going to turn the work over to the wrong side, and then we are going to put 2 double crochets or 2 UK trebles into the very first stitch, which is that last single we did at the end of the previous row. So that's 2 in there. Then you're going to skip 1 stitch, and you're going to put 1 double crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. So it's basically the stitches you did for your shell, but not the front post double crochet. You're skipping that one. So 1. Remember to tilt the work slightly because we're working from the back. You can't just try and crochet like this. I know it sounds so obvious, but I know I always say this, but I've been teaching for more than 10 years, and it's amazing what some people do to make their lives difficult. So where am I at? I've done 1, 2, 3, 4. I need 1 more. That's 5. So then I skip that stitch, which was the front post treble, and then into the single crochet I'm going to do an open V. So if you remember, that's a double, chain 2, double. So let's have a little look there what we've got going on. We've sort of got what is really a kind of partial open V here. It hasn't got any chain spaces in it. Then we've got 5 doubles, and then we've got an open V. So then we're just going to repeat the sequence of skipping 1 and doing 5 doubles, stacking those up on top of my shell that I crocheted. Skip a stitch into the single, you're going to put an open V, which is a double, chain 2, double. This row never looks that interesting because it's the next shell. This is like a setup row for the shell really, isn't it? It's the next row that makes it look interesting. Skip a stitch, 1 into each of the next 5. Skip a stitch, open V in the single from the previous row. Skip a stitch, 1 into each of the next 5. And then into the very last stitch, which was a single crochet, you're going to just put 2 doubles. 1, 2. It's sort of a half open V, same as at the beginning, or partial, not half, partial. You can't put half because the middle of it is a bang middle of one of these is chain 1 half double, and you can't have that on the edge or something. So what you should have at the end of this row, you should have, remember we're not counting the chain 2, you should have 2 doubles to start with, set of 5, open V, set of 5, open V, set of 5, open V, set of 5, 2 in the end. Let's do row 4. So what you're going to do is you're going to chain 2. This is not counting as a stitch, nor are we ever going to work into it. You're going to turn the work to what is now the right side, and you're going to do what is in essence half a shell. So in the very first stitch you're going to put 3 doubles, so you're not skipping any stitches, you're literally putting 3 doubles into that very first stitch. Then you're going to do front post double crochet around this post of the second stitch. So you've got your first stitch there, around this second one, front post double. Then you are going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and into the third one you're going to put a single. So remember, that's basically bang in the middle of that set of 5 that we put there into the third stitch. So this is what the start looks like. You've got this sort of half shell going on. Now we're going to revert back to the pattern sequence that you're used to. Front post double crochet around the first stitch of the open V, 5 into the chain 2 space of the open V, yikes, 4, 5, and then front post double crochet round the last stitch of the open V, skip 2 stitches, single crochet into the middle of that 5 double crochet segment. So there we go, there's our first full shell of that row. I'm just going to carry on in that pattern sequence and just go a little bit faster now, because hopefully you know what we're doing. Front post double, 5 double in the space, you can always pause the video if you need to slow down. Front post double around the second stitch of the V stitch, skip 2 stitches, single into the middle of that chain 5 double crochet section, and then let's do another front post double around the first stitch of this open V, 5 doubles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, front post double around the second stitch of that open V, skip 2, single. I've got 3 full shells there. In the class notes I have instructions for how to if you want a bigger swatch, maybe you want to make a blanket or a scarf or something else, or maybe you're only doing a really small section of this. I've put in a handy little table that shows you how many chains you need to start with, and how many stitches you'll get for a certain number of shells. Let's imagine you wanted 10 shell repeats. What would you need to do for that? In terms of size, I can't tell you that because I don't know what size hook and what yarn you're using. That's why you need to make this little sample first, swatch, see how that turns out, and from that you can work out what size you're going to use. So let's finish off this last partial shell on this left hand edge of row 4. Skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, front post double round the next stitch, and into the very last stitch you're going to put 3 double crochets. So this is what it's looking like at the end of this row. I've got 1, 2, 3 full shells, half a shell or partial shell this end, partial shell that end, roughly adds up to 4. Let's do row 5. So you're going to start again with the chain 2, and then you're going to turn the work to what is now the wrong side. You're going to put 1 double into the top of the first stitch, and then 1 into each of the next 2. So on this starting edge you end up with 3 doubles. We have the chain 2 obviously, which we are not counting. Then into this you're going to skip 1 stitch, and then into this single you're going to do an open V. So I probably don't need to tell you what that is anymore, but it's a double chain 2 double. So you probably notice now that these open V's always go into the single crochet from the previous row. Skip a stitch, 1 double to each stitch of my shell, which should be 5. skip a stitch, open V into the next single. So actually row 5 is basically the same as the first row we did, except we're working into stitches rather than the chain, the starting chain. Skip 1 stitch, 1 double crochet into each of the next 5 stitches, and skip a stitch and open V into the single. So I'm going a bit quick now, but I think, you know, my video is already a bit longer than what most people like anyway, so, you know, hopefully you know what's going on now. 4, 5, skip a stitch, open V in the next single. Skip a stitch, you're going to put 1 single into each of the last 3 stitches basically. So that's what it looks like. Wrong side of row 5. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 open V's, 1, 2, 3 sets of 5 double, 3 on this end, 3 on this end. So that's just a bit wonky. You know, you'd probably maybe crocheted a bit loose with this, but again, you know, if you're making a blanket or maybe even an item of clothing with this, you don't really want the tension too tight, otherwise you end up with a piece of fabric that's stiff as a board, which seems to be a very common phenomena with crochet. Let's do row 6. You're going to do a chain 1, but not like that, like that. Turn the work to the right side, single crochet into the very first stitch, and now we're going to do our skip 2, front post double crochet around the first stitch of that V stitch, 5 double crochet into the chain 2 space, 2, 3, 4, 5, front post double crochet around the next part of the V stitch, skip 2, single to the next one. First shell made. So row 6 is actually a nice little row because it's very neat, because we're always starting and finishing with a full shell, because this is a alternating pattern where the shell always sits between the shell from the previous sequence. You invariably end up with half shells on the alternating pattern sequence. So front post double, 5, front post double, skip as 2 stitches, skip 2 stitches, single, front post double, 5 in the chain 2 space, front post double, skip 2, single, front post double, 5, front post double, and then single crochet into the last stitch. If you're unsure about that, just count back 1, 2, 3. Remember, we've got a little chain 2 on the end there. It keeps the edges straight. I know on the very first row we worked into the top of the chain, but that's why I like to switch out chain 3 for chain 2s, because I don't like, it's a bit more tricky to do on the starting chain. It can become a little bit complicated. So that is from rows 3 through to 6. So these 4 rows here, this is your basic pattern repeat, so you just keep repeating those until the work is the desired length. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. Did you give it a go? Please share your work. Did you make a swatch? I like to see what you're doing. Did you find the video useful? Any questions or any feedback, let me know. Thank you very much.